welcome to 30 Minutes Wellfleet. I'm Candace Perry, and our guest today is Bruce MacGibbon. Bruce and I are just going to kind of sit here and chat for a while. We invite you to listen in, and we're going to talk about Wellfleet and whatever else kind of comes to mind. Bruce, when did you come to Wellfleet? Why don't we start with that?
Well, I'll start first by saying this is my first interview ever in a studio, and I'm sometimes a practicing lawyer, and I've learned when I'm in front of people, cameras included, that it takes about 5 minutes to settle down. So for the first 5 minutes, most of what I say will be nonsensical.
Okay.
I came to Wellfleet about 1957 or 8.
Mm-hmm. What brought you here?
I think it was a Chevrolet.
Literally, okay. Why did you come to Wellfleet in your Chevrolet?
Well, I came to the Cape like almost every other tourist. It was pretty. It probably was it's a long time ago. 59 is almost 30 years ago. 58 would be 30 years. I came because it's a piece of land that juts 26 miles out into the ocean, and it has a lot to tempt people to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose almost everybody else does that for the same reason the first time.
Mm-hmm. Had you lived in this area before, or you?
No, but I had a grandmother on my father's side who spent portions of her summer on a beach on the bay in Brewster.
Hmm. Had you come here as a child with her?
No, I came as a child usually with my mother and father to visit her.
Oh, okay. So you knew it a little bit from that.
I remember the beaches. I remember the fish weirs. Do you know what fish weirs are? Well, they're posts. I think they're made of cedar. Posts in the ocean with nets that work a sort of a circular trap. And they're visible at very high tide, and at low tide they're totally visible. And the fishermen used to come in and go into the traps and pick up fish. And that was one of the major ways of fishing when I was a real child. And I'm 56 now, so that would be 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Was it a communal trap, or everybody had their own set, like lobster pots?
I couldn't tell you that, because I was too young to inquire as to what the mechanisms of ownership were.
Okay. So when you came here as an adult in your Chevrolet,
Mm-hmm.
almost 30 years ago, were you going to fish? What were you going to do?
I think I was just married to a young lady that I met in Korea, and I was looking for a place to get away from Duxbury because Duxbury was starting to become too suburban for me. And I found it immediately. I found a spot on Lieutenant's Island in Wellfleet, and that's where I bought within a year after coming here.
Is that where you live now?
No, I had built 2 houses on Lieutenant's Island. They've both been sold. And now I legally live, as all the court orders say, just about wherever anyone can find me. And I have a dwelling in Duxbury, which is my legal dwelling for the purpose of spending a great deal of time in Wellfleet, working out of my garden shed, or our garden shed. My wife, Katrine, is over here. And I sometimes live on my boat, Dawn, and I did that so I would have the legal registration to vote in Wellfleet because I've been very active in politics in Wellfleet. And I ran for selectman.
How many times?
10 times.
10 times, okay.
And lost every time. Long-winded, ain't I?
No. Why'd you run for selectman? What were you hoping to do?
Well, probably like any other newcomer, I was probably seeking some type of an ego trip. I was looking to be recognized. I had my own ideas and values that I thought would be appropriate for the community, and I wanted the community to find out about them. And they did.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of times I ran for the money because they were really paying a lot of money.
But you didn't win any of those times.
No.
Okay. How do you see yourself affecting politics in Wellfleet now? You're active at town meeting. That's mostly where many of us know you from.
Mm-hmm. That's about it now.
Mm-hmm. What do you have anything in mind when you go to town meeting? Do you see yourself as having a special voice or playing a special role?
Well, I try to stop spending, almost in anything that I can, because we're overspent totally. For example, whether the cameramen have ever thought about it or not, my calculations just on the national debt show that every one of us that's employed currently owe $25,000 of the national debt. And can they earn enough playing with those cameras to pay that additional $25,000 on top of everything else that they owe? I doubt it.
So $25,000 is the debt that you've calculated that each person owes?
You too.
Okay.
The 5 of us in here owe $125,000, and it increases every year.
How do you apply that locally to Wellfleet?
Well, since we owe so much nationally, I think that it's very foolish to have bond issues for any purpose whatsoever. Police stations, schools, libraries, water systems, anything. If we can't pay what we're spending now, what makes us think we can pay what we're going to be spending 10 years from now and pay the debt of today? We have to reduce our standard of living phenomenally to catch up to where we were in 1942.
What you say sounds so logical and reasonable. Why do you suppose you're seen as kind of this colorful character? This sounds real solid and reasonable to me, what you're saying.
Well, because I say it very bluntly, I hide nothing. For example, we've spent at least several minutes organizing the cameras so that they don't appear to intrude upon our conversation, and several minutes wondering whether these cords should be on the inside of our dress or on the outside of our dress. We're forgetting that honesty is much more important than the appearance of honesty. We are wired.
Yes, we are wired, everybody. There are cameras recording this. There's no way around that. Yeah. No.
So I'm a fanatic when it comes to money. I'm also Scottish, and that makes me very fanatic when it comes to money. And you can see by my shoes that I get a good deal of wear out of them. And I do that with everything that I have. I hope I get a good amount of wear out of my last wife. She hasn't bit me on that one yet.
She doesn't get to talk back. Bruce's wife is here in the studio, and she unfortunately doesn't have a microphone wired to her, so we'll interview her another time and let her talk back.
Very
How's that
good,
sound?
'cause
Okay.
she's from Paris, and she's a good artist. And to give a plug to one of the local Wellfleet establishments, she's got her paintings hanging in Uncle Frank's donut shop.
Okay, great. Tell us about your wedding, since you talked about your wife. That was recent.
We were married first for the government so that she could come, so she could get her papers in August 1st. And then we were married again for the real wedding in the church on the hill in Wellfleet, the Congregational Church, by Reverend Kenneth Roscoe on October the 10th, very close to noon. And it was a beautiful day, and we had a reception after that, and guests from all over New England arrived. And we also had several roosters at the reception, and everyone got delightfully drunk. Intoxicated was the Republican, and I'm a Democrat. And it was a lovely wedding.
Someone else has asked me to ask you about your motorcycle. I'm not quite sure why. What's special about your motorcycle?
I think it has to do with cost again. The last four wheels under you vehicle that I had was a Corvair that belonged to my father. And I used to drive that on and off the island in Wellfleet, in Lieutenant's Island. And one time in the winter, the tide was coming in, and I knew I didn't want to be stuck on the island, so I tried to get out. And there was ice floes, and the car wouldn't make it, I knew. But I did get the bow of it up onto an ice floe. I say the bow because it was really sinking, but the engine was in the rear. So this was in the very middle of the winter, and they sent the entire fire departments of, I think, two towns, Eastham and Wellfleet, to try to rescue me with this bow of the Corvair. Well, to make a long story short, that was the end of my four wheels, so I bought a motorcycle. And I primarily have been traveling by motorcycle for 10 years. This year I bought a car again. Too long a story.
No, no, it's fine. Where have you gone on the motorcycle? Do you travel all around on it or just here?
The first trip, long trip I took on a motorcycle, I went to Arizona, and from Cape Cod on the back of a truck to Chicago, and then down to Fort Smith, Arkansas, where the truck went to Florida, and then from Fort Smith, Arkansas, I went to Arizona and back to New Mexico. I was on a 175cc Honda Elsinore dirt bike, and it did a lovely job.
Do you go interstates doing that, or back
yeah,
roads?
Interstates.
Yeah,
they're safer.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
When you said that about your trip, it also made me think of something else. I've heard rumors, or maybe you mentioned that you've bought property in the Southwest.
In New Mexico.
Yes.
Both Katrina and I have fallen in love with an area south of Santa Fe.
Now that's very different from the Cape.
Well, Katrina wants to be the modern Georgia O'Keeffe. And look at her.
We can, only we can.
And so Georgia O'Keeffe did a lot of her painting up in that area, I think closer to Taos. But it's so beautiful. The colors are magnificent. There's no moisture in the air. And the colors are astounding. It'll be purple on one side of the horizon and a yellow or purple on the other side of the horizon, changing much like the northern lights change, all the time. So it's the type of an area that is a good counterpoint to Cape Cod.
Do you envision living both places, splitting your time? So we'll still get you at town meeting, huh?
Yes, if I'm still considered a legal resident.
I see. Yeah, right. Okay. Are you building something there? Or you?
I'm hoping to have an adobe built. I've built 7 buildings. I'm a lawyer, but I've literally built 7 buildings in the last 10 or 15 years, and I'm getting tired of building.
So you're ready to let someone else do it for you?
Yes, if I can sell one of my buildings in Duxbury.
Okay. You've been in Wellfleet now almost 30 years, you said. How has it changed?
Lots and lots of more people. Lots and lots more cars. Lots and lots of everything more. Same amount of land, though.
How has that changed the quality of it for you, or your feeling about it?
No, because I like the woods anyway, so as the people come here in the summertime, I'm hoping to escape. I'd like to take, Katrina's French, I'd like to take her up through Nova Scotia, which is beautiful. And if we can get out in August, that would be a perfect time to do it. Because I'm now beginning to feel like locals feel in August. There's just too many tourists, and our tempers run too taut, and we want out of here.
So let the tourists come and enjoy it in August.
They can have it, all of it.
And then you'll be gone, and then you'll come back later when it calms down
Exactly. And then go to New Mexico around Christmas and stay till around May. It's very cool in New Mexico, but I like it. But we're supposed to talk about Wellfleet.
Okay, we'll go back to Wellfleet. You'll have to save New Mexico for when they interview you in New Mexico. What do you see being the problems for Wellfleet in the future? I know you've thought about that, talked about it some.
Actually, I don't see any problems for Wellfleet. Wellfleet land is selling at around $100,000 a lot. Only wealthy people are coming here. They ain't got no problems. The problems are that those who were born and grew up here and their parents weren't wise or foreseeing enough to buy land for them are not going to be here. They have to go elsewhere. Maine, New Hampshire, even Canada, if they want the same type of attitude that they had as children, they have to go north.
So Wellfleet's going to lose Wellfletians, if that's a word.
Wellfleet is going to change. Boston Common once was a place that you kept your cows. If anyone brought a cow to Boston Common, they'd put him in, what is your other occupation? Psychiatric?
Right, yes.
Of course.
A psychiatric institution. Okay.
So things change, and they're not remembered by those who are here at all as to what they were before. And that's why I'm leaving Duxbury. Duxbury was a very rural community. I graduated in 1949 from high school, one of 24 in the graduating class. And we went to a small school building from the 5th grade all the way through to the 12th grade. Now you go back and there's a complex of no less than a dozen buildings.
More people, right?
More people.
They bring their kids with them.
Right. It changes from rural to a suburban rural mix, and then a sort of a cityfied environment without even the attributes that a city has. So I don't like it.
But Wellfleet, do you think there's anything we ought to do about it?
I don't think there's anything anybody can do about things of this nature. It's economic. Land has its value, and if it has its value, it's going to be sold to people who will use it the way they consider it to be used most profitably. Those who weren't wise enough to buy can just holler, scream, and whine all they want, but nothing will happen.
You don't think there's anything special we should try to do about that?
Oh, everyone, there's lots of people who get together to do things. To give you an example, I'm well known in Massachusetts because I've beaten every attorney general except the new one for the last 17 years over a simple permit application to use a piece of my land in Duxbury. It's taken 7 trials, same permit application, 7 trials, 3 appeals before the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts, a notation written by a Supreme Court Justice of the United States of America, William Douglas, in his book, The 300-Year War, law courses taught in Harvard and others about this case, and it's called the MacGibbon Trilogy and Wetland Legislation. And it's because the town of Duxbury would not give me a permit to build a house on my land, and my land was marshland. As a result, my marsh is excluded from all laws relating to the Commonwealth on filling wetlands by order of the Supreme Court.
Is that just because you stayed at it so long?
It's because I said, I'm tired of people who want to stop other people getting together in groups and not putting up one piece of their own psyche to be risked as against the person they're trying to stop. Committees, groups, and organizations can raise vast sums of money to stop individuals. And yet when the individual wins, you can't even get a Commonwealth court to order that those groups now should be penalized and pay out of their pockets for the damage they've done. The only penalty that they've suffered is that I've said that their laws may be unconstitutional, and they worry about that. That's the only penalty that they have.
Now, who's they in this case?
The mass.
I'm lost.
The mediocre mass in the United States. Those who make laws. I'm getting a little bit nebulous at this point. I know you want... I'm a lawyer. I believe in the Constitution, every word, and I believe especially in the Bill of Rights. We, in the last 20 to 30 years, have been tearing away at the Constitution and the Bill of Rights so much that you probably don't even have high school students knowing what is in the Bill of Rights.
That's probably true. On your case, I don't know the background of it, but did they not want you to put to build on the marshland because they're trying to preserve the marshland?
They didn't want me, in their words, to despoil the natural features of this marsh. And I told them, if you can shit in the woods, I'll shit in the marsh.
Okay. Is it valuable, though, to save the marshes?
Isn't it valuable to save the woods? They finally picked the last piece of land that is the most difficult to do anything with and said we must at least have that for open spaces. And I can agree with them, except for one thing. They won't pay for it.
Oh, so you get to keep it, you pay for it, but you can't do anything with it.
Exactly. And in the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, that's a taking without compensation.
Okay.
Illegal.
So you now have a house in this marsh?
No, I don't
You
have
don't have-
anything
oh.
on it. I just have a permit to do it.
You have the right to have it if you want to have it.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think it should be a very, very interesting marina with high-rise restaurants and high-lie courts and so forth, much like Miami Beach. I think Duxbury deserves a Miami Beach right in the middle of it.
Okay, well, we have to put this on the Duxbury show, too. Let's
All
go
right,
back to
very
Wellfleet.
good.
Okay,
Okay.
let's say that for 30 minutes, Duxbury. Back to Wellfleet. Have you had any cases with Wellfleet like that?
No, just the locals. I go to court 5 or 6 times for locals. Real estate, minor criminal matters. Advise a lot in terms of business and things of that nature.
You were an attorney in the Virgin Islands?
I
Is that
was
right?
the acting Attorney General of the Virgin Islands for many, many a month. I was the first Assistant Attorney General of the Virgin Islands for several years. I was coordinator of all Attorney Generals of the United States of America at the 69th Conference of the National Association held in St. Thomas in 1967. I was advisor to the Banking Commission. I was attorney for the legislature. I was a private counsel for the governor. I've had more cases reported in the Virgin Islands reports more than any other attorney since the island was discovered by Christopher Columbus. And I don't think that record has been broken. And all of them, except one, I won.
It's an impressive record.
I think so.
Yeah. What kept you from staying there?
I had a couple of problems with my psyche that I think would have been described at that time as minor nervous breakdowns. So I took off and took a first plane going anywhere, and that landed me in Lisbon, and then I hitchhiked and through other means of transportation went overland to India over about a 7-month period. And then I came back to Wellfleet and started building houses on Lieutenant's Island.
It sounds like what some people would call a midlife crisis.
Yes, yes, I had that.
That's a very respectable thing to have these
All right.
days. That's okay. Okay, so but you already had the house in Wellfleet, and then you did all your work in the Virgin Islands, and then
No, I just had a little teeny
Oh, just the
cabin,
place.
smaller
Oh,
than the
oh.
studio. Much smaller, half the size of this studio.
What is the place like you live in Wellfleet now, the shed?
Live in? No, we don't live there. This is a place that we occupy other than a dwelling because there's a court order that says we may not live there.
Oh, okay. So you don't live in there. You can garden in there, huh?
We garden, we do painting, we write, we watch our video, we watch our VCR, we listen to our stereo, we do crafts, and come over and visit it.
Thank you. Thank you. Sounds interesting. We have just a few minutes left. Anything else you want to talk about?
I don't know.
What do you think about Wellfleet in the wintertime? What do you like to do?
I think it's delightful up till around the middle of January because it's cold, the snow comes in, it's very peaceful, and then it's very boring and you just want to get out.
So you don't do the winter sports,
What winter sports
snowing,
are
snow
there?
skiing?
What hills?
That's true. The dunes? No.
No, it's the winter sports in Wellfleet are getting drunk at the bomb shelter and then talking with your friends.
Okay, so the winters are not the best time for you to be here. That's when you'll go to New Mexico
That's correct.
in the wintertime.
Mhm.
And then when would you like to be here? When would you like to be in Wellfleet?
Spring and fall.
Okay.
and spring through the middle of July. And then I'd like to get out of here the most of July and August. North. I want to go to Canada. I want to see that. Oh, one other thing. I see myself, strangely enough, as a future president of the United States of America. I don't know when or how it will happen, but I will receive that type of notoriety that will interest enough of the segments of people who have an unconscious way of thinking the way I think consciously to want me elected. And I believe that will occur. I don't know when.
Okay, people heard it first here on 30 Minutes Wellfleet, right? This,
Yes.
this may go in some kind of historical archive someday.
All right, well, it's probably where it deserves to be.
Okay. You don't have any plan yet formulated
No
for
plan.
how that will happen?
No plan. I just have to plan as to how I can behave as a president to relax, to enjoy myself, and to make sure that those people that I represent enjoy me being there.
Okay.
And I will be just as frugal as president as I am in my private life. I may even lease the White House to something or other.
Disneyland?
Could be.
Okay. Okay. What advice would you give to people about being frugal?
Pay their bills. Tear up their credit cards. Keep maybe 1 or 2 credit cards only for insurance in the event that something is stolen from them and they have to make a telephone call or they need it. Don't buy on credit. Save and buy. Make the interest go the other way.
That's not the American way, though.
It was always the American way until the last crash. And after the last crash, Roosevelt, whom I respect very much, brought us out with credit. But his attitude was that we must pay back on that credit, and we've never started to do so.
So you think from both the national level down to the personal level, that's how we're all living now.
That's right. It's 50 years of foolishness, and we're going to pay for it. And prior to that, America was known for being pioneers and going out with little to nothing and building a life. Now, children are taught that they don't ruin your credit. Borrow. It's the most stupid thing I've ever think has come across any nation.
In fact, you're supposed to get credit. If you can pay for it, don't do that.
Exactly.
Get credit instead.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds like that's your advice to individuals, to the town, and maybe at some point in the future to the nation.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you for being with us, Bruce.
Well,
I've enjoyed this. This wasn't so awful, was it?
No, it's okay.
Good. Good. Thank you
We're
for
done?
joining us. We're just about done, I
Good.
think.
I'll now drink some coffee.
Okay. Bruce will drink coffee, and I'll tell you thank you for joining us on 30 Minutes Wellfleet. Bye.